In this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 tips and tricks that should make it a lot easier for you to play police stories and make you a lot more successful in the game. This is a game that seems at first glance that it relies a lot on Twitch gameplay, and while there is some of that in it, there's actually a lot of strategy and tactics to this game as well. And if you use these 5 tips, I can guarantee that it's really going to make a big difference in terms of how successful you are on a given run or in a given level that you're playing. So I'm going to start with the first one, and the first one's maybe going to be a bit obvious, and then I'll move into 4 other tips which are kind of based around that as well, but maybe a little bit less obvious when you're starting to play the game at first. And once I'm through the tips, I will do a let's play just to show you how some of these things work in practice. So the first tip is to use your partner to check under doors. And as I said, this one's a little bit obvious, but everything else that I'm going to be discussing builds on this. But I'll tell you why I specifically say that you should get your partner to do this. So in addition to the fact that it will free up an inventory slot for you, your partner can actually do this quite quickly. And since the AI doesn't necessarily move around and keep checking all the directions, it's better for you to be doing that most of the time and then using the AI to quickly check rooms for you and keeping him covered to make sure that there aren't any hostiles approaching from other directions. Now, there are some exceptions to this. So on the bomb maps, or at least some of the bomb maps, you may want to rush certain rooms in order to save time, especially with the smaller rooms where you can safely assess where the hostiles are likely to be. You don't necessarily have to check those rooms, and on some maps you won't necessarily have enough time to check all of the rooms before you start going into them. But aside from the bomb maps, you should pretty much always be checking the rooms before going in. So with that one out of the way, I'm going to get on to the second point. This is by far the most important point, and this is the one that made the biggest difference for me when I realized that melee is extremely important. So it is the easiest way to get a non-compliant hostile or a civilian to surrender. It doesn't really matter anybody that you're encountering. And basically, the golden rule here is do not shout if you are close enough to hit. So hitting is quieter and it is much more effective. If you see a hostile or a potential hostile in a small room close to the door, you can rush and hit them immediately without having to use any ammo or equipment. And as I said, this is the single most important thing. There are lots of situations where you're going to be within melee range, and there's absolutely no penalty for just using melee in the game. So you might as well. It might seem like a little bit of an exploit, but it works really well. So if you are struggling, that's a really easy way to make sure that you can get both, like I said, hostiles and civilians to comply. Now, the third point is around using flashbangs. And basically what you usually want to be doing is, as a first option, if the person is not going to be in range, is using a flashbang, basically getting your partner to use the flashbang. Now, again, there's an advantage to using your partner because I would say 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, your partner will get the flashbang deployment exactly right, which means that you'll get a perfect deployment each time and you can just rush in and take care of the hostiles inside. Now, the 2 situations under which you may want to use a flashbang and not just go straight into the room and try to melee immediately is cases where the hostiles are further away, so they're definitely going to be able to shoot you before you get to them, or there are multiple hostiles in the room. And in those cases, you probably want to go in, you see if there's anybody that isn't complying, and you just use melee in those cases. If there are too many hostiles in the room, you may want to send your partner in with you, but just keep in mind that if somebody is pointing a gun at you, even if they are stunned, your partner will immediately use lethal force to basically take them out. So just be aware of that, and that's why the smaller numbers, you may want to go in first, because of course you get higher scores for taking anybody alive, including the hostiles. So this brings me on to the 4th point, which is the door breaches. And this should definitely be an alternative option. It's extremely effective, but you kind of want to save these. And you want to use it in cases where the door is locked, or the hostiles could see and shoot you before the flashbang detonates, or the open door will limit movement or sight. So just keep in mind that using the door breach will remove the door completely. So that comes with a number of advantages. And you just want to keep in mind as well that there are certain situations, and you'll sort of get a feel for this in terms of where the hostiles are, where the hostile is going to be at an angle where they'll be able to see you as soon as you open the door. And that is a problem, because that means they can start opening fire on you or your partner if you're within that range. in that 1 or 2 seconds while you're waiting for the flashbang to detonate. It's also a problem in cases where a hostile is holding a hostage at gunpoint and they will shoot them within that 1 or 2 seconds, or I think in a lot of cases they'll shoot the hostage while you're waiting for that flashbang to detonate. So particularly in those cases, you do want to save the door breaches because it's one of the only reliable methods to prevent hostiles that are holding hostages at gunpoint from shooting the hostage when you enter. That brings me on to the 5th point, which is the stun gun. So this is a good alternative to using flashbangs and door breaches in cases where there is only one hostile and there's no penalty for shooting someone even if they are not a threat. So it works on long range, and shooting someone will cause them to immediately surrender. If there's only one hostile and you have a clear shot from the door, ask your partner to move out of the way, open the door and immediately shoot the hostile with the stun gun. So just by the way, I know that some of the equipment is only unlocked later in the game, but even just knowing how to use flashbangs and melee can already make a huge difference to your success rates. As far as I remember, because I've unlocked everything in the game now, you do unlock flashbangs fairly early on if you don't have it at the beginning of the game already. So yeah, as I said, as long as you understand the flashbang rule, the melee rule, that's already going to make a big difference for you. But let's just jump into the game and I'm going to run you through some of these examples. Alright, so I've just set up a custom game here. Basically we have 8 terrorists, we have 2 civilians, and we have 2 faked civilians as well. Those are the ones that can basically, they look just like civilians but they can pull guns on you. And I've sort of got the standard equipment that I usually use. So I have the lockpick here for silently opening doors. I have the taser gun, which is really useful as I'll show you. And then I also have the defibrillator. So I'm probably not going to have to use that, but we do have it in case we need to revive our partner or anybody else. We also have body armor that allows you to take more shots. So the first door over here, this is a sliding door that's going to approach, basically as we approach is going to open. So it makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't really stack up on it, but we'll just have to see what happens as we go in. And we do have somebody, and immediately I'm going to shoot him. Even if he wasn't raising his gun, I might as well have done that. That saves me the risk of him potentially pulling the gun if you have enough ammo. This guy is in a really difficult position because I'm going to have to run all the way around to get to him. So I think what I'm going to have to do is probably let him throw the flashbang. I will tase him as I get to the counter and then run around and take care of him. Usually by the time I've tased him, he should be compliant at that point. The door will open in this direction, which means that we will be safe from his fire while the door is open. So yeah, this is what I mean by it's not necessarily Twitch gameplay, because you can plan all of this out in advance. I'm speaking through it, but you know, ordinarily you would do it a lot faster. So we're just going to run up. Okay, he is going to try to shoot me, so we're going to tase him, and this problem is taken care of. So this was already quite this wouldn't necessarily be a great start if you're just starting out, but we're still fine. So let's see if there's anybody in here. Yes, we do have her. And again, if you're close enough to hit, do not shout. Now, what I want to demonstrate here is that if this was a bomb map, we probably wouldn't want to check under each of these doors individually. Now, under these circumstances, I should actually be doing that, but I just want to illustrate how easy it is to clear small rooms, because you kind of have an idea that if there is somebody, they're going to be, well, there's not a lot of space for them to be in. So we're just going to walk straight into the rooms and sort of rush it, and if somebody's in there, we'll just immediately hit them. So far, all clear. There we go. And it's that simple. So, did she have a gun? Yeah, she did actually. So this was a criminal. It doesn't actually matter if you hit somebody and they're completely innocent. This game doesn't penalize you for it, as long as you don't shoot people that you shouldn't be shooting. Or shoot without somebody being a threat, basically. Okay, so what I want to demonstrate here is that in cases like these, I can still just tase him. This might be, I think it's an okay shot to make, so we'll move him out of the way and just, he didn't even raise his gun, no penalty. Of course, it did cost me a little bit of ammo, but let's check the last room. This one I can just rush as well. Okay, and I am going to rush him. There we go. Just see, did he drop a gun? Doesn't look like it. That was just a civilian. Sorry, buddy. Okay, so this room's fine. It is kind of ridiculous that you would send in 2 normal policemen to take down an entire casino of terrorists. Okay, another good example of using a flashbang. We'll use this here. I'll find another place. So I think this is our last flashbang. But we'll find another place to use a breach. Oh, he just surrendered. Nice. I've used quite a bit of my equipment already. Okay, this guy I think I can rush. I'm just gonna walk in. And that's why I said the melee, that second tip that I gave, is by far the most important. That makes a huge difference. Okay, he's too far away. Let's breach this one. Okay, there we go. Now all of these you can, if they're not immediately surrendering, just combine it with melee. And again, that's why I say melee is such a... For the longest time I played this game without ever using it until I realized that you need it to get the bomb code. He's quite far away. Let's just walk in and I'll tase him if he does... Oh shit, okay. Yeah, so your partner, that's why I said, if you send them in and somebody pulls a gun, he is going to use lethal force. So unfortunately we did lose one. I was hoping to do this map without any casualties. Should I risk it? Okay, there we go. I could have shot it, but you know, she might still pull the gun. Let's clear these rooms. Oh shit, that was very, very close. I was a little bit slow on my reaction times there. Oh, and that's everyone. We didn't even need to check up there. But yeah, at least I did get to demonstrate basically all of the tips that I wanted to. And that's all there is to it. I mean, there's a couple of other things that you can do and you'll get used to the different kinds of equipment and so on. But as I said, once you understand how to plan out approaching rooms and you know that in the shorter sort of distances or in cases where somebody is non-compliant, you can just use melee to get them to comply. That does make a pretty big difference. If you do like this kind of content, please do like and subscribe. If you'd like to see me do some Let's Plays of this game or some more Let's Plays, I might do that if there's enough interest in this video. But other than that, I'll see you for the next video.